What if your biggest problem at work isn't your boss, but the way you talk to your boss? Think about every tense one-on-one, every "can we talk" email, every time your heart raced before asking for a raise or pushing back on an unfair deadline. What if the real bottleneck in your career is not their personality, but your communication strategy? As you listen, keep one question in mind. Where do I struggle the most when I talk to my boss? And when this audio is over, I want you to go to the comments and tell me, what's your biggest difficulty when talking to your boss right now? Let me tell you a story. This is about Sarah. Real person, real situation. Sarah is 32. She works as a marketing analyst in a mid-sized tech company. She's the person people go to when something urgent breaks. She fixes it. She stays late. She cleans up messes no one else wants to touch. On paper, she's reliable. In her head, she's stuck. For 3 years, she's been doing manager-level work with no manager title, no manager pay, and a boss who always says, "Let's revisit this in the next cycle." Her boss, Mark, isn't a villain. He's busy, under pressure from above, tracking 1 million KPIs. But every time Sarah tries to talk about a promotion, the conversation dies. She walks out replaying every word, thinking, maybe I'm just not leadership material. Here's the important thing. Sarah isn't bad at her job. She's just using the wrong influence tactics. Decades of research on persuasion, from Robert Cialdini's Principles of Social Influence to negotiation strategies from people like Chris Voss, all point to the same idea. People don't respond to arguments. They respond to how those arguments make them feel and how easy you make it for them to say yes. Most professionals don't know how to do that with their boss. In fact, around 83% of people make the same core mistake Sarah was making when they try to ask for a raise or a promotion. They focus on proving their worth instead of making it safe for their boss to back them. By the end of this story, you'll know the one sentence that changed everything for Sarah, and you'll be able to use that same sentence in your next conversation at work. Here's where everything went wrong. It's performance review season. Sarah walks into Mark's office with a neat little folder. She's rehearsed her speech in her head on the commute. Mark looks up from his laptop. "Hey Sarah, come in. Let's make this quick. I'm back to back today." "Sure, of course." He scrolls through her review. "Overall solid year. You handled the product launch fire really well. I appreciate your reliability." She hears that word again. Reliable. Like a nice office chair. Sarah takes a breath and launches into her script. "Thank you. Actually, I wanted to talk about a promotion to marketing manager. I've led 3 campaigns end-to-end. I increased lead volume by 27%, and I've taken on onboarding for the new interns. According to market data, my role is underpaid by around 15% compared to..." Mark frowns slightly. "Right, I hear you. Thing is, budgets are tight, and the org structure is still in flux. Let's see where things land after Q2. She feels her chest tighten. "But if you look at my results, I'm already doing the job. Honestly, it feels unfair that I'm not being recognized." Mark's tone shifts, just a little sharper. "It's not about fairness, it's about headcount and approvals. My hands are tied here." Silence. Keyboard clicking. Conversation over. Sarah walks back to her desk feeling small and strangely annoying, like she just made her boss's day harder. Listening to that moment, there were 3 fatal mistakes. Mistakes most professionals make when talking to their boss. Mistake number 1, she led with data, not emotion. She tried to convince with numbers before she connected with how Mark was feeling. He was stressed, rushed, and focused on constraints. When someone is in pressure mode, pure logic feels like an attack, not support. Mistake number 2, she stated demands instead of asking calibrated questions. Her message was basically, "I want X, here's why I deserve X." Chris Voss calls questions that start with how and what calibrated questions. They invite the other person to problem solve with you, instead of feeling pushed into a corner. Sarah didn't ask a single one. Mistake number 3, she accidentally made her boss wrong. When she said, "Honestly, it feels unfair," she triggered defensiveness. Mark subconsciously heard, "You're not a fair manager." The moment someone feels accused, they stop listening and start protecting themselves. Maybe you've done the same thing. You walk in with logic and fairness, and walk out with another vague promise about next cycle. That night, Sarah went home furious. She opened her laptop to update her resume. But something happened that night that changed everything. Sarah called her friend Daniel, who works in HR at another company. "I'm done. I laid out my results, and he still brushed me off. Maybe I just need to quit." "Slow down," Daniel said. "Tell me exactly what you said." She reenacted the conversation. Daniel listened quietly. "Okay," he said. "You're doing the right work. But the way you're framing the conversation is putting him on the defensive. You're trying to win a courtroom case. You need to win his brain." He sent her a couple of articles on persuasion and a podcast on salary negotiation. She spent the evening taking notes. As she listened, something clicked. It's not about arguing harder, she thought. It's about making it easy and safe for him to say yes. Daniel gave her a simple framework. 4 steps, built on tactical empathy, Cialdini'S principles, and some NLP-style reframing, and 1 sentence to use with her boss. I'm going to walk you through the same framework Sarah used. As you listen, imagine one specific conversation with your boss, a raise, a project, or pushing back on an impossible deadline, and mentally plug that situation into each step. Step 1. Reset your internal story and your state. Before, Sarah walked into meetings thinking, "He doesn't value me. I have to prove my worth." That internal story made her voice tighter, her sentences longer, her energy more desperate. People feel that, even if you don't say it. So she changed the story to, "Mark is under pressure and doesn't see the full picture yet. My job is to make this feel safe and beneficial for him." Same facts, different frame. Right before the next conversation, she did 3 simple things. She took 3 slow breaths, with a longer exhale than inhale. She imagined the conversation ending with both of them smiling and shaking hands. And she silently said to herself, "I'm here to help him solve a problem, not to beg for approval." That's a basic NLP move. Change your inner movie, and your outer behavior follows. You can do the same before your next one-on-one. Just run that new movie in your head. Step 2. Start with tactical empathy and labeling. Instead of opening with, "I want a promotion," Sarah learned to start by naming his reality. In their next check-in, she started like this. "It seems like you've been under a ton of pressure with the reorg and budget changes." Mark exhaled. "Yeah, that's an understatement. And I get the sense that you're trying to keep the team stable while leadership keeps moving the goalposts." "That's exactly right," he said. "Those are labels. It seems like, it sounds like, it looks like." They do 3 things at once. They show you see the other person's world. They lower their defensiveness. And they buy you a little emotional credit. Reciprocity, one of Cialdini's core principles. You give understanding. They're more open to giving consideration. Sarah made herself a new rule. Before I ask for anything, I earn the right to ask. You can steal that rule. Before your next request, try one of these phrases. "It seems like you've got a lot of pressure from above on this project." "It sounds like you're worried about timelines slipping." "It looks like you're juggling a lot of priorities right now." Say it slowly, then pause. Let them respond. That pause is where trust builds. Step 3. Use the authority alignment question. This is the one sentence that changed everything. Here's the sentence Daniel gave Sarah. "What would need to be true for you to feel completely confident backing me on this?" Read that in your head for a moment. This one question uses several persuasion levers at once. It starts with what? A calibrated question. That invites problem solving, not defensiveness. It frames your boss as an ally who might back you, not an enemy to defeat. It signals respect for their authority and their risk. You're not saying, "I deserve this," you're saying, "Help me understand your conditions." Here's how Sarah used it. After labeling his pressure, she transitioned. "Given all that, I'd like to move toward a formal marketing manager role over the next cycle. What would need to be true for you to feel completely confident backing me on that?" Then she shut up. Mark leaned back. For the first time, he wasn't defending himself. He was thinking. That question pulled him onto her side of the chessboard. For your situation, you can tweak the sentence slightly. What would need to be true for you to feel completely confident approving a 10% adjustment to my salary? What would need to be true for you to feel completely confident letting me lead this project? You're not pushing. You're inviting a roadmap. Step 4. Make it easy to say yes with small, specific commitments. Once Sarah asked the authority alignment question, Mark gave her the keys. Well, he said, I'd need to see you leading more cross-functional meetings, taking more ownership on forecasting, and I'd need to know there's actually a manager headcount open. Perfect. Now the invisible objections were visible. Instead of arguing, Sarah used consistency and commitment, 2 more of Cialdini's principles. Okay, that makes sense, she said. So if I lead the next 2 cross-functional campaign meetings, take ownership of the Q3 forecast, and we confirm that there's a manager headcount for the team, then it sounds like you'd be open to formally backing me for the manager title and a salary adjustment. Is that a fair summary? She summarized his conditions, not hers. That's important. Mark nodded. Yeah. If you did those things, I could make a strong case. Now he was publicly committed. His own words were the contract. From there, she broke it into even smaller, easy-to-approve steps. Great. For the first step, how would you feel about me leading the next campaign sync with product and sales? Let's try that, he said. Tiny yes now. Bigger yes later. Let's quickly recap the 4 steps so your brain can file them. 1. Reset your internal story and your state. I'm here to help solve a problem, not beg for approval. 2. Start with tactical empathy and labeling. It seems like, it sounds like, it looks like. 3. Ask the authority alignment question. What would need to be true for you to feel completely confident backing me on this? 4. Make it easy to say yes with specific small commitments. So if I do A, B, and C, then you'd be comfortable doing X. Is that right? Keep those 4 steps in mind, because we're about to watch Sarah use them in the final 6-minute conversation that changed her career. The final conversation lasted only 6 minutes, but those 6 minutes changed everything. 2 months passed. Sarah had led 3 cross-functional meetings. She'd taken ownership of the Q3 forecast. She'd cleaned up a messy data process that was causing Mark headaches. She booked a 15-minute one-on-one with the subject line, following up on our manager conversation. She walked in, did her 3 breaths, and sat down. Hey Sarah, what's up? Mark asked. Inside, she reminded herself of step 1. I'm here to solve a problem with him. She started with empathy and labels. It seems like the last quarter has been intense with the reorg and all the leadership changes. He half laughed. You have no idea. And it sounds like you've been the one holding a lot of that uncertainty for the team. That's exactly how it feels, yeah? He said. He relaxed a little. She continued. Given all that, I wanted to follow up on our conversation from 2 months ago about me moving into the marketing manager role. Then she brought in the authority alignment question, tied to what he'd already said before. Last time we talked, you mentioned you'd need to see me leading more cross-functional work, owning the forecast and confirming an open manager headcount. From your perspective now, what would need to be true for you to feel completely confident backing me for that role this cycle? Mark paused. He'd already told her the criteria. He'd seen her act on them. Honestly, he said, you've done most of what we talked about. The campaign meetings have gone smoothly and finance liked the updated forecast. The headcount is still pending final approval, but I don't see a reason you couldn't step into that role. Sarah labeled again to reinforce. So it sounds like you're feeling more confident about me in that seat, and the last piece is just the formal headcount approval. That's right, he said. Now she moved to specific commitments. Great. Here's what I'd love to propose, and you can tell me what works for you. We update my title to marketing manager effective next month. We align my salary with the midpoint for that band. That would be a 12% increase from where I am now. And I take full ownership of the product launch pipeline for Q4. What concerns would you have with that? Again, she used a what question. She invited hidden objections. 12% is going to raise eyebrows with HR, he said, but title change and expanded scope that I can argue for. We might need to phase the salary increase, why, say 7% now, and revisit the rest after Q4 performance. She listened, no arguing. Then she tied it back together. So if we change the title next month, move my salary 7% now, aligned with the lower end of the manager band, and if I hit the Q4 targets on the launch pipeline, then you'd feel comfortable backing an additional adjustment to get me to midpoint. Is that accurate? He nodded slowly. Yes, if you hit those targets, I'll push for it. She anchored his commitment to consistency. I appreciate that. It means a lot to know that if I deliver on those outcomes, you'll be in my corner. What's the best way to document this so it's easy for you to move it forward with HR? Send me an email with what we just discussed, he said. I'll reply and loop in HR. 6 minutes. That was it. 2 weeks later, her title change was announced in the team meeting. Her salary went up 7%. 3 months after a strong Q4, she got the additional 5%. Numerically, it was a 12% raise and a formal manager title. Emotionally, it was something bigger. She no longer felt like a passenger in her own career. So what can you take from Sarah's story? First lesson: stop trying to win the argument. Win the relationship and the roadmap. Your boss isn't a judge. Treat them like a partner who's managing risk. Second lesson: use empathy as your entry ticket to every hard conversation. 2 labels before any request. It sounds like. Third lesson: always ask for conditions, not just decisions. Swap, can I have this for? What would need to be true for you to feel completely confident backing this? And I want you to turn this into action this week with 2 simple moves. Action 1. Write your own authority alignment question. Fill in the blank for your situation. What would need to be true for you to feel completely confident backing me on Barnier? Action 2. Choose 1 real conversation this week. Before it happens, script 1 empathy label, it seems like, and your version of the authority alignment question. Then use them even if your voice shakes a little. Remember that mistake 83% of people make. Sarah made it too. She led with arguments, not empathy. She pushed for a yes without first asking for the conditions of yes. She accidentally made her boss wrong instead of making him an ally. But now you know what she learned. Next time you face that conversation, the raise, the promotion, the impossible deadline, you'll be able to pause, breathe, label their reality and ask, what would need to be true for you to feel completely confident backing me on this? When you do that, you don't just change 1 meeting. You start to change your entire trajectory at work. Now I want to hear from you. Share in the comments. What's your biggest challenge when talking to your boss? And which sentence from this episode are you going to try first? And if you want more weekly tactics for workplace persuasion, negotiation, and professional influence, grounded in the science of Robert Cialdini and the negotiation methods of Chris Voss, make sure you subscribe to The Power of Persuasion so you don't miss the next episode. Your career doesn't change when your boss magically becomes a better person. It changes when you start speaking in a way their brain can't ignore.